Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Cullen with the Norwood League of Women Voters, and I want to welcome you to our Candidates Night Forum ahead of the municipal election coming up on Monday, April 7th. We are pleased, as always, to be able to partner with Norwood Community Media to bring you this event, and we are excited to be conducting the forum live in the NCM studio. I'd like to thank League members Linda Renzi and Eileen Hannon for all their work to make this evening run smoothly. I'd also like to thank the candidates for their willingness to volunteer their time and expertise in service to Norwood, and for being here tonight to provide information about their candidacy and ideas for Norwood and its residents. The mission of the League of Women Voters is to empower voters and defend democracy. The League envisions and works towards a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate, and it holds a belief in the power of citizens to create a more perfect democracy. It is in this spirit of empowering voters that we bring you tonight's program. The League does not endorse candidates for election. Rather, we provide information about candidates to help serve our mission of empowering an educated and informed voting public. Our format this evening is similar to that of past forums. On this year's ballot, there are 2 contested races. There are 2 candidates to fill 1 seat on the Board of Health and 4 candidates to fill 2 seats on the Board of Selectmen. Unfortunately, 1 Board of Health candidate is unable to attend tonight. Therefore, in accordance with our empty chair policy, we will not be able to conduct that portion of the program. Please visit our online voters guide to learn more about the Board of Health candidates. Tonight you will hear from the 4 candidates running for Board of Selectmen. You can find information about all the candidates running for town-wide office and town meeting, as well as information about the Norwood chapter of the League on our website, my.lwv.org/Massachusetts/Norwood, and by following us on Facebook. If anyone is interested in joining the League of Women Voters, please email us at lwvnorwoodma@gmail.com. Shortly, our moderator will explain the format and timing for the evening. Then we will begin with opening statements and questions. The questions being asked tonight are a combination of League-authored questions and questions submitted from the public to our email address. We were pleased, as always, to receive a robust response from the public with relevant and thoughtful questions. While we will not be able to ask all of them, we did our best to ensure all major themes of interest will be addressed. If your question is not answered, or if tonight's forum raises more questions for you, please reach out to the candidates directly. Candidates' contact information can be found in their online voters guide response. At this time, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the evening. We are thrilled to have Joanne Barry with us again this year. Joanne is currently a member of the LWV Acton Area Steering Committee and serves as the chair of the LWV Massachusetts Governance Committee. Joanne is also town moderator in Acton and has moderated many candidate forums in area communities. Once again, please welcome Joanne Barry.
Thank you, Sarah. And welcome to tonight's forum. By the way, it is March 24th, so if any events happen after tonight's forum that weren't addressed, that's why, in the future. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. We'll have a series of questions, as Sarah said, gathered from people who sent in questions. So the questions are consolidated. So if you don't hear your exact question, hopefully your topic will be covered. So 1 minute response for the questions, and then we'll have closing statements for 1 minute. So and just so that everyone knows, we have the warning signals at 30 seconds and 30 seconds and stop for each question. So let's begin with Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you, and good evening. First of all, thank you, League of Women Voters, for the opportunity to be here this night and to your sponsorship of this event. My name is Bob Donnelly, and I'm a candidate for re-election to Norwood Board of Selectmen. I was elected to the board in 2022 after serving 5 years on the Finance Commission. As selectman, I have served on a number of committees, including the Capital Outlay Committee, the Middle School Building Committee, and the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. and I am a current chair of the board and a 31-year member of town meeting. During my first term of office, I've used these experiences to advocate for improving town services for residents. These include sponsoring the town meeting article to develop a 10-year comprehensive plan, the first major town master plan initiative in 10 years, in over 30 years rather. I led the initiative for the town to pilot a curbside food composting program to divert food waste from our trash removal service. I also led the effort for the board to adopt an annual performance review process for our town manager. I have chaired the Capital Outlay Committee for 2 years, and this committee recommended and got town meeting approval for investing in improvements to our roadways, our water system, and purchasing of new ambulances and fire equipment for our fire department. In the community, I'm a volunteer for the Food Pantry and Norwood Concert Committee. My wife Michelle and I have owned our home in Norwood for over 35 years. We raised our daughter here. We often help the Norwood Trails Committee to improve trails and participate in many local walks on Norwood. I really appreciate your consideration of voting for me once again on Monday, April the 7th. For more information on my campaign, I do have a website, bobdonnelly.com. I'm sorry, bobdonnelly4norwood.com, bobdonnelly, the number 4.norwood.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grow.
Thank you. Greetings. I am Selectman Amanda Grow, and I'm running for a second term on the Board of Selectmen. I am a founding member of the Norwood Anti-Scam Task Force, where I work with town staff and detectives at the police department to protect our residents from scams, particularly seniors and youth. In my second term, I plan to further that effort. Speaking of youth, I'm also a member of Impact Norwood Coalition, which is dedicated to youth wellness and substance abuse prevention. I don't do politics, I do civics. I've helped to improve the relationship between the board and our firefighters, as well as our state delegation. And in a second term, I'm eager to increase our collaboration with the county and neighboring communities. We'll need that in order to finish Norwood Hospital. I've been a town meeting member for about 6 years, where my home is in District 7, and I volunteer with pro bono groups around the town, such as League of Women Voters, Norwood Gardening with the Environment Group, and more. Democracy isn't some self-driving car. We each have a responsibility to take a turn behind the wheel, volunteering our time and skills to keep things going. So all of this is how I perform my civic duty. For 18 years, my day job, I've worked for an online software company, and that keeps me current with things like PCI compliance, CAN-SPAM Act regulations, cybersecurity trends, software licenses, and integration projects. And I use that knowledge to help with public safety and seeking ways to reduce costs or create new revenue opportunities for the town. There's so many challenges to tackle, like increasing our open space, increasing our tree canopy, or finding ways to address the high cost of living. If you vote for me, I'll continue to invest hundreds of hours of my time pro bono to the town as a selectman and enjoy every minute of it, even the challenging ones. Thanks for being engaged in civics tonight. If you would like to learn more about me, you can visit my website at amandagrow.com.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Doyle, and the reason why I feel I'll be a good candidate for selectman for the town of Norwood is I was a 9-year Navy veteran. I served overseas, and I've traveled our country and out of the country twice. So I feel like I can bring another perspective to the town and how things work. I've raised both my children through our school system, with one of my children having an IEP and a 504 plan. So I understand the spec eds and what we have to go through and the cost involved and what the school committee has to do to budget for all of this. I've also served on several committees. I've done 8 years on the Conservation Commission, which gives me a different perspective on looking at the issue that we have with the flooding in town, because I've learned a lot about all our different streams, whether they're perennials or not, in the rivers and the compensatory storage and everything like that. I also serve on the Community Preservation Commission, sorry about that. It was voted in November of 2016 at town meeting, and we got together in 2017. So I've served there. I've served on several other boards, so I think that gives me a great insight. And to let you guys know, there's never been a female veteran on the select board in its entire history, and I would be the first one.
Thank you. Mr. Konecki.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Joanne, the League of Women Voters, and my fellow candidates. I'm Steve Konecki, and Sherry and I have lived in Norwood for almost 30 years, and we really love this town. It's a great town. The police and fire do an excellent job keeping us safe, and if you need anything, they're there in a moment's notice. The electric company, I think I've had as much as a half an hour without electricity once or twice since we've been here in 30 years. They're really great. And all of the other departments, the DPW keeps our streets good. You can always tell when you're entering Norwood because the streets are clear. There's no more snow once you get here. And the town does an excellent job. I'm a proud town meeting member and community advocate. And there's a lot going on in town right now. We've got a hospital that's been closed for 5 years, and we have to get that hospital going again. It's costing us a lot of money in ambulance rides back and forth to area hospitals. We're wearing out our paramedics. We've wear and tear on the cars, the ambulances going back and forth, not to mention the human life, because it's such a long ride. We've got high-density housing crisis right now. 49% of our housing is apartments right now, and that's a lot. Quarter-acre lots, so you got to figure that's a lot of that's a lot of apartments. It's costing us in stormwater, it's costing us in police and fire, and also crowding in the schools. Taxes and fees are really getting high, and our seniors are really complaining about that. We've got to do something serious about that, and I'm advocating for senior tax relief. The budget is under control. Social Security only went up 2.5%. And 928 Washington Street, the select board didn't listen to the town. The town didn't want that. They came into the meeting. It shows a real lack of leadership. They just pushed that through. And the select board has to represent the taxpayers, not the development. And they should once again lead this town.
Thank you. That brings us to our first question. Compared to surrounding towns, Norwood is the smallest in size, but it is highest in population density. Multi-unit apartment buildings continue to be approved and built in town, while many people have concerns that increasing development will have a negative environmental impact, as well as an increase in traffic and strain on town service. As a selectman, would you approve more housing developments, and what criteria would you use to vet proposed projects? Ms. Groh.
So for me, I want developments that concentrate people where they can walk to address traffic. If we just slap developments into places where people are going to have to get in a vehicle to go and get basics like groceries and other amenities, then that's what's going to hit us for traffic. I also need them to be managing the stormwater. There's a lot of locations in town where some of the existing properties, they're currently using very outdated stormwater management that's not up to code. So when developers come in, they have to be doing that. And it's not just a promise that they make, they have to actually follow through on it. And if they don't, then the board, as an oversight board, has the responsibility to follow up and make sure that they're complying and punish them if they do not.
Thank you. Mr. Konecki.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. It has a lot of background. Apparently, this is one of the longer questions. Compared to surrounding towns, Norwood is the smallest in size but highest in population density. Multi-unit apartment buildings continue to be approved and built in town, while many people have concerns that increasing development will have a negative environmental impact, as well as an increase in traffic and strain on town services. As a selectman, would you approve more housing developments, and what criteria would you use to vet proposed projects?
Well, right now, I think we have met the requirement for the number of high-density housing units that we need to have in town. I don't think we want to go out of our way to have more of those in town. One of the things is that when you take a piece of land and you use it for apartments, you're not getting as much in taxes as if you had used that land for a commercial property, because the apartments pay the residential rate, they don't pay the commercial rate. So really, I'm not in favor of having a lot of new high-density apartments in town. It's just costing us too much money, and the residents don't want it.
Okay. Ms. Doyle?
I'm not for the density of the large developments that they have. I think we'd be better off doing like smaller, tinier developments that limit how many can go on a lot. We don't, with all the apartment complexes that have been built, I don't think anyone can actually say we have affordable housing in the town of Norwood. I think we'd be better off trying to set up some type of fund to allow people to get into their own homes, go through the Community Preservation Act funds, because it does allow housing. And if we're going to build any apartments or anything, do something small to help the seniors or the younger people, whether we do micro apartments, which are around 600 square feet. I think we'd be a lot better off.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you. Well, I think that one of the issues that both the Planning Board and the Board of Selectmen will look at when it comes to housing development is affordability. Case in point, the state MBTA Communities Act was established to address affordability of housing in the greater Boston area. So I think Norwood took the right approach in last year by the Planning Board recommending compliance with the MBTA's Community Act. It ended up with our complying with the Act, but it also ended up with, I call it, smart housing. It's concentrated in our commuter rail centers, the buildings that are going to be permitted perhaps in the future, are vacant lots and old industrial sites that frankly are in need of development. And certainly from a stormwater perspective, new development, new buildings will enter into a process where we will be in compliance with stormwater regulations as well.
Thank you. Next, what specific strategies or policies would you implement to ensure that our town remains affordable for seniors, particularly in terms of housing, transportation, and taxes? Ms. Doyle.
Like I said on my previous comment, I believe if we're going to build any more housing in our town, we need a developer that'll come in and do like a 55-plus development. But we need to keep it affordable. I think we need to also take a pause on our taxes and take a couple steps backwards, because we're pricing seniors out of their home, and it's really not fair to them, because of a lot of the seniors, when they retired, one spouse was working and the other one wasn't. So I think we need to, start taking a look at that, on what we can do to help them and figure out a program to keep them either in their homes or make 55 and older.
Thank you. Ms. Grow.
So I'm interested in seeing us lean hard into the Community Preservation Act to see what we can do about getting more ownership. Because even if we increase rental units, we still need people to be able to own homes too. And I think that there's opportunities for us to, whether it's through a housing trust or whether it's through programs where we incentivize people for certain roles, like can we get some housing affordability for people if they are joining our first responders, or opportunities like that, where we are giving people not just housing but also housing for roles where we really need the extra help in certain areas.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you. So the town does have programs for cost-burdened seniors where they can apply for some tax exemptions, and I think I would like to take a look at that program and see if there are opportunities to expand it. We also have an opportunity. We also have a program which allows seniors to a senior workout program where they provide work service to the town, mostly a town hall, in return for a reduction in taxes. And from a state perspective, I know that Norwood Senior Center does a good job advising seniors around all their exemptions and programs that are available for seniors, including the circuit breaker program for the state that all residents of Massachusetts are eligible for if they meet income criteria and age criteria.
Mr. Kenichi.
Well, I'd like to look, as selectman, I would like to look at an increase in the exemption credit for seniors. I don't think that's been looked at for a long time. I'd like to increase that. And the other thing I'd like to do is find a way that we can give them a break off their property taxes. Like, for instance, maybe the first 100,000 they don't get taxed on, so they only get taxed on the remaining. So if it was 700,000, they'd get taxed on the 600,000 instead of the whole burden. So that's another thing we can look at. But the seniors really are suffering. They're the ones who built this community. Their kids have gone to schools here, and it's not fair for us to not consider them and not take care of the seniors.
Thank you. Next question. This year, we, meaning you, are using $7 million of free cash to balance the operating budget. What does this mean for next year's budget? Mr. Kenichi.
Well, I think it means that next year's budget, they're either going to need to use more free cash than they're using this year. I'm not a big advocate of using free cash. I think that we've built up some free cash. Some of it was luck, some of it was just because it's there, and I think that's our savings for the town. And I think that we should look much stronger at the budget and see what we can do in order to trim rather than using our free cash, or at least that much free cash. There's a lot of places in town I think we can take a look at that. I wouldn't advocate personnel. I would advocate looking at other places, and I think everything's on the table, but personnel would definitely not be at the top of my list.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Yeah, so it means that we don't have $7 million in free cash to use for next year's budget. So I think the approach the town needs to take is realizing that free cash can vary greatly from year to year. It's not the ideal way of funding your operations, but a lot of towns are doing it. A lot of towns are going through a structural deficit at the moment. And we had a free cash balance at one point of about $20 million, so it's very difficult to be taking a hatchet to the budget and personnel costs at a time when we are sitting on that much free cash. What we need to do, I think, is to plan for the FY27 budget with an eye towards asking the department heads to plan their budgets in a manner that they assume that there's no free cash to balance the budget, and have them come back to us, the school committee and the FinCom, with what will the impact be to services if you were to budget in that manner without the free cash.
Thank you. Ms. Groh.
So the use of the free cash is essentially a cushion to allow us to really pin down how to deal with services, how to still accomplish what we need to, because a lot of our costs are going up in things that we're not choosing to do, such as waste management getting more expensive, or having to do all the extra runs, wearing out our equipment and our staff from the hospital being missing. And so what this is going to allow us to do is to dig in and see, okay, where else can we get creative and either bring in money or find things to switch out what we're doing. I've been spending time with the IT group, like what software licenses can we get off of? Because you can't replace a software license with a free cash option. You need to start planning now for when you want to ramp off of that software.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle.
I'm not a fan of using free cash when it hits the millions like that. What I wish like the school board and the town would do is take like a circle and then put all your employees in the middle of it, and that includes the teachers. Don't lay those people off. We need them because they're actually the foundation. And when you start laying teachers off, that makes other teachers nervous, and they're going to start going to other towns. I think the school board and the town should look outside the circle and see what else they can cut. Leave the personnel alone, but I bet you they'd find a lot of money elsewhere. And you know what? Tighten up the purse strings. We have to do it in our homes. We don't go around just spending our savings account at home. So you have to kind of look at the town and the schools in the same way. Would you actually go spend happy and not cut?
Thank you. Next. In working to balance the town's budget, only so much can be cut through reducing services and personnel. The other side of the equation is increasing revenue. How do you propose to increase revenue without increasing costs for residents? And as a part of that question, what is your position on fees for services such as trash, recycling, and compost? Mr. Donnelly.
I think that that what we need to do first is to look at, we're going to have approval for our FY26 budget at the May meeting of town meeting. That gives us a lot of time between May of this year until the beginning of next year, where we have to be working on the budget for FY27. I think what we need to do is take a look at our budget without the use of free cash. I think that's an endeavor that the FinCom, the school committee, and the Board of Selectmen should take. When we get a perspective from them in terms of what the departments are proposing they can do with a reduced budget, then I think we can have a conversation regarding how do we close that gap, whether it's through cuts or raising revenue. But at this point in time, I would really like to see what the impact of that budget reduction would be, assuming the department heads can budget appropriately without free cash coming in FY27.
And I do just want to follow up on your position on fee, because I'm sure somebody is burning to know, position on fees for trash, recycling, and compost.
We are the only town in the 20-town radius of Norwood, I believe, that does not have a trash fee. And we have been able to do that with our property tax levy. I'd like to see us continue to do that. So I think that the opportunities to review fees is going to be there. I would really try to resist doing a trash fee, because I think that has basically we have basically our tax levy, we tax commercial, we tax residential. That means our commercial properties, their taxation is going to help pay that trash fee, and I think that's a good deal for the town. But if we have to look at it, it depends on how the severity of the cuts would be in FY27.
Thank you. Mr. Kenichi.
I'm not in favor of raising fees. I don't want to raise the trash fee. I don't want to incur fees for school busing and all the things that make Norwood a good place for people to live. I'm not in favor of doing that kind of thing. I think we really have to look at the budget, and if it takes locking up some individuals in a room for 8 hours until they can come up with a good budget, I think that's a good place to start. But I don't want to start this thing off by increasing fees.
Any other thoughts on the first part of the question, increasing revenue?
Well, increasing revenue is always on the table if you can't close the budget, but I'm still in favor of trying to get those people in a room and trying to see what we can do to crunch that budget. I know that there's a lot of fixed fees there, but we need to give it the old try.
All right, Ms. Doyle.
I'm not a fan increasing anything at all. I just think we keep raising taxes, we keep raising this, we keep raising that. And I think we're at a point right now that enough is enough. And I would love to see what would happen if we told government side and the school side and go, okay, we're not going to raise any fees, we're not going to generate any new revenue, and we're not going to allow you to have access to free cash. Balance the budget. See what they come up with. I think it might surprise everybody if you put those parameters on there.
Thank you. Ms. Groh.
Thank you. So I'm excited about the opportunity to offer new products and services through the light department. I think we sort of underutilize that avenue. And a lot of it can be done without really changing that much of what we're doing staffing or equipment-wise. For example, what if we want to start offering a cloud storage option for people that want to get away from some of the large tech companies? And that means that we're just using the technical knowledge of staff we already have, and we're using physical space that we also already have. And in some cases, we're recycling equipment that we might have thought of getting rid of as we start downsizing on the cable side. And then in terms of fees, I'm not a fan of trying to manage waste fees like through trash fees. I'm more of a carrot than a stick person, because to me, if you start implementing fees, what happens is people start disposing of their waste in places where you don't track it, like they're going to throw it on the side of the road or throw it out the car window. I prefer to do programs that are incentive based, or that even get people excited to participate. So that to me is the better approach than trying to force it through hard fees.
Okay. Residents and elected officials, start over again. Residents and elected officials have voiced the need for transparency, particularly in regards to individual departments' budget development and approval, correspondence being read into public record, and the light department. What does transparency look like to you, and how would you advocate for it? Ms. Groh.
So I'm excited to see us continue to embrace the use of the technology that we do have, because in some cases there are processes that we were maybe leaning on the physical paperwork aspect of it, which then slows it down, which then if it's slower, then you have a harder time getting it listed or storing it at a place where people can access it more easily. So I'm a huge fan of getting more opportunities for residents to directly view documents or directly see things, as long as we're redacting important PII, personal identifying information, out of the files. But I'm really excited for things like giving residents more visibility into our planning and thought process on the board. I'm very excited to have department heads sending reports up, getting them back before the board to verbally give us the reports, and posting out our packets so that people can see them. These are the type of activities that I'm very interested in really aggressively pursuing.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
I agree with a lot what Amanda says. When we do have public hearings on whenever we are raising our light rates or our water and sewer rates. We have a rate every year to determine the tax rate. They are public hearings, they are published, but they are publicly noticed. However, we don't get a lot of people to attend, and quite frankly, we don't get a lot of communication to us. And what I would like to do, and I've talked to the town manager about this, is that I would like to have more of the documentation that we are receiving as a board out there in the community, so people can have a better view of what we are looking at. I don't know how best to tackle the issue of getting more time and attention at our public hearings, but I do believe that if we can come up with a systematic way of sharing our documents more thoroughly on our website, I think that will go a long way to help us with our ability to be transparent in all the activities that we are doing as the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Konieczny.
Well, I'm wholeheartedly in favor of transparency. I think that there's a lot of towns who have started having a town meeting, a select board meeting, and inviting people from the town to attend that, whether, on a periodic basis. Maybe it's once a month, maybe it's less often. Depends on what the need is and whether the community wants to participate in that. So that's one thing we can look at. I think that there are a lot of meetings in town that the minutes get put up on a website fairly quickly, but the meeting minutes don't really have any meat in them. So if somebody tries to see what happened at the meeting, they can see that there was an agenda and so was invited in, and they had this hearing, but there's no meat as to what was discussed at the meeting and how it ended up being resolved. So I think those are the kinds of things that the people in the town would like to see.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle.
On transparency, I would like to see town meeting go back to the way it used to do it about 7 years ago. Our town meeting books had every single line item, whether it's the school side, government side. We knew where every single penny goes. And now everything is like grouped together. And you got to kind of wonder, when town meeting votes to pass a budget, whether there's $1 million for one department or something, do they really know what they're voting on? So I think transparency in regards to the budget, I think there needs to be more information out there for us.
Okay, thank you. Norwood is in the process of developing a comprehensive plan that will be, as is stated on its website, quote, a 10-year vision and roadmap for our town's future. In the interim, decisions to approve large expenditures on aging town-owned buildings will need to be made. How will you ensure those decisions are not siloed, but rather are viewed within the context of all town-owned buildings and are aligned with this long-term vision? Ms. Doyle.
I think on our aging buildings, depending what they are, if they're a historic value and like Upland has designed it and we had different architects, I think we should do everything in our power to preserve our old buildings, whether it be the Morris House, Town Hall, what have you, because that is our history of the town. And in order for the town to move forward to the future, you need the history. You need the backwards part. I think on the schools, you have to take a hard look on the elementary schools. They're old. And have we completely kept them up? Is there anything else that we could do to them to make them better, instead of keep building new schools and then having to deal with overrides, which has a ricochet effect, which means it hurts very young people, it hurts the elders, and so on.
Thank you. Mr. Konieczny.
As far as our historic buildings go, I'm thinking that that's probably a perfect place for us to use CPA funds. The town collects CPA money and they can use it for historic renovation, and I think that's a perfect use for that. So as far as the comprehensive plan itself goes, I think a 10-year look is it's a very good goal, but probably not easily achieved. I've had a couple of seniors come up to me and hand me a workbook that they were given that's titled Meeting in a Box. And they were asked to fill out some information to what they'd like to see the town in the next 10 years. And I think that's a big ask for a small group of people. I think I've gone around campaigning. I've gone to 450 homes asking people questions, and that's a perfect way to get a lot of these answers.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Well, I was certainly an advocate of the comprehensive plan. I sponsored the article at town meeting to go forward with it. I think I have a little bit of a disagreement with how the question itself. I think our capital improvement plan, the capital outlay plan, when we are addressing 1-year, 2-year plans for buildings, we're really addressing the immediate needs from a maintenance perspective. HVAC system at the police department wasn't working correctly. We need to do something that to make it comfortable for the staff to work there. Roofs on top of schools are deteriorating. We need to address that. The 10-year comprehensive plan and the exercise that we're taking that the community is giving input on does give us a list of the special places and the special buildings, the buildings that are near and dear to Norwood residents. Those are the ones that I think the comprehensive plan will really provide some input around what do we do for these places over the next 10 years. And I think that's a little bit of a different situation than addressing the maintenance needs of today.
Thank you. Ms. Grow.
So for me, my approach is that I'd like to get previews of data. If we know that we're doing this process and gathering a lot of information from the community, from a lot of different methodologies, in-person small groups, outreach directly from the planning group, if everyone's participating, then that means we have some early insights already. And so what we should do is, as we're thinking through these shorter term sort of angles on different large projects that are going to have a impact beyond just that 1 to 2 years, then it's important to go, hey, let me go check with planning, or let me go check with some of the folks that are aggregating this information. Are we seeing any obvious trends that would point us towards or away a certain decision, even though the full total plan is not all the way complete yet? So I think there's value in getting that early feedback as part of the process.
Okay. Stormwater. What needs to be done to build the stormwater system over several years, and what is your position on a stormwater fee? Mr. Kenichi.
Stormwater is a problem that we definitely need to tackle. Stormwater was one of the major causes of the hospital being so severely damaged that it had to be ripped down and we thought at the time rebuilt. Stormwater is also what caused us to build a new police and fire station, so we definitely have to tackle that. Last year the town tried to tackle it by assessing a stormwater enterprise fee, and that was going to go into a special account to take care of that. And fundamentally the idea is probably sound, but in order to do anything like that, whether it's an enterprise fund or just a fee, we need to come up with a really solid plan that the residents can look at and find out how much this is going to cost, how long it's going to take, and how it's going to be implemented and who's going to be affected by it. It's something that's town-wide, and it's a really, really big deal.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle.
I'm not thrilled about having a stormwater fee. I think the town has a habit of being they're not reactive enough going forward. Even though like the hospital got flooded, yes, but it wasn't all just stormwater flooding. They weren't maintaining their roofs. A lot of their water came in through the roof. There's a lot of neighborhoods that took on water that nobody talks about. A lot of flooding in the homes and that, and I think if we keep allowing the developers to keep coming in and they only design on a 25-year storm, that's normally what their pipes are. If a developer is going to come in, pave over, build, and do whatever, we need them to design the stormwater storage of their properties on at least a 50-year storm, increase the pipe size. They need to do more. And I think we need to take a really hard look at losing a lot of our greenery and our trees.
Thank you. Ms. Groh.
So a couple different approaches. I know the Stormwater Committee recommended doing a stormwater fee. There are other communities that do it as well. I think it'll be challenging for residents to go that direction, even just emotionally. And so that means if we're not doing it that way, then we're going to have to come up with a different way, because this problem isn't going to fix itself or go away. So some of that can be lobbying out. We might need to get more assertive about engaging with the county and seeing if they have any funding that they can figure out what to do for us. Or maybe it might be collaborating with some of the major business partners in the community. Like, look, you can't run your business if it's underwater. Maybe we all need to do something special here. Or it could be introducing programs to just insert canopy where it currently doesn't exist, doing more tree planting. Trees have a huge amount of potential for absorbing stormwater, and so we might need to start aggressively putting trees in places that before we might not have considered in the past, because it wasn't a big deal to us, but now it's a really big deal to make sure we have ways to control the water.
Thank you. Mr. Johnley.
So just as a point of disagreement, Norwood Board of Selectmen, neither the selectmen or the town meeting were presented with a fee schedule for approval regarding stormwater. What we have done, and this has been, Ms. Groh has made reference to it, is we have looked at options for financing a stormwater system. We know that Mr. Ryan, our DPW and town engineer, has done a lot of work in this area. We have multiple projects that are being evaluated by engineering consultants. We funded a lot of our early work for stormwater management through ARPA funds, federal funds. They're not existing anymore. But from a public safety perspective, we have to replace and upgrade the aging system. The system's too small to convey water from one end of town to another. We need to look at stormwater fees. We need to look at how we can finance it through the operating budget. We need to look at all the options that are available to us as a town. But it is something that we really need to pay attention to and correct, because it's going to really hurt us over the years.
Okay, next. Since adopting the Community Preservation Act, or CPA, in 2016, do you believe Norwood has used its CPA funds effectively? What are the pros and cons of being a CPA community? Ms. Doyle.
Well, considering I sit on the board and I started there on 2017, it's done a lot of good. It's a great thing to have in our community. We were able to give money for St. Gabriel's Chapel. We gave money for the Tot Lot, the airport playground. We restored the Carillon and had the bells all tuned. We've done so many studies that we were able to finance through the CPC, the cemetery, the old parish cemetery. A lot of money went into that. I could go on and on and on, but real quick, just so you know, very small percentage of the household taxes go to CPC. The brunt of it is on residential, and then the state does matching funds. So we end up with a huge chunk of money that makes for historic open space and housing better for this community. So I support it 100%, and I don't find the negative with it.
Mr. Konieczny.
Well, I think that there's a lot of merit in the CPA and using the CPA funds within the town. The only downside that I see with it as a program in itself is the fact that an outside entity can come into the town and they can make a request for CPA funds, and they can get that approved if some of the things that they're trying to do fall in within the right, I'll call them baskets. As long as the need is there, they're willing to do that. And I don't believe that we should be giving our taxpayer money, our CPA money, to an outside entity who's going to ultimately own the building or whatever it is that the project we're talking about. As long as the money's being used in the town, then I think it's definitely a worthwhile program.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you. I support the CPA. I'm glad to hear the good feedback from our candidates here this evening, because there has been information out there in the community from various ads to advocate for the rescinding of the CPA program, which I think would be a mistake. It was passed in 2016 with over 60% of the vote. Ms. Doyle is very correct. It's funded programs and projects that otherwise would not be funded because of the operating budget needs of the town. So I don't see any cons to it. I think it's a lot of pros. If you do not have if you are opposed to a CPA project, there are opportunities to voice your opposition both through the CPC public hearing, and ultimately town meeting makes the decision whether to approve or not approve a program, and people have the opportunity to voice their opinion on a particular program at that time as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grom.
So I love CPA. There are so many great programs. I can't think of a single one that I've opposed, because they've all just been very good and well thought through opportunities, like the Carillon, like the chapel, like even just housing opportunities or ways to improve access to housing. It's really awesome. And so I would never want to see it go away, because when people talk about finding ways to do enterprise funds to sort of well manage what they're choosing to work on, like this is the perfect way to do that. That you're like, okay, we're going to spend this much on historic preservation, and we're going to focus this much on open space. I mean, how else are we going to grow open space in Norwood without the CPA? It's very important for that. So for me, the downside of the CPA is just the fact that you have to get ideas brought forward to it. The CPA committee itself can't just decide we're going to do this or we're going to do that. They the community has to be the one bringing them to you, and sometimes people are a little unsure of what to do. I would encourage anyone to go out. There's resources for CPA where you can look at what other communities have done and see if there's something that we can borrow.
Very good. Do you think the Board of Light Commissioners should be separate from the Board of Selectmen? Why or why not? Ms. Grow.
So this is going to sound really weird, but I would love for them to be separate. We're kind of unique in that I think we're one of only 4 now, because I think there used to be 5 and 1 recently converted, to split the authority of those things apart. The reason I think it would be beneficial to do that is that you would have people come forward for the management of that entity who are focused on those topics. When you come to the select board, we have so many different topics that we oversee that it's sort of folded in. But the light department's a highly technical operation, and it's also a high revenue operation, and I feel like it would benefit from having that separate attention, even though it would mean, that wouldn't stay with me. Let's pretend that that got split up next year, then suddenly I wouldn't be a light commissioner anymore, and I love being a light commissioner, but I think it would be beneficial to allow a board to focus its attention.
Mr. Kenichi.
Well, as selectman, I would definitely want to take a look at that and see the pros and cons of doing it either way. Right now, I haven't seen any information because I'm not in an elected office, and I don't know the ins and outs of why it would be a good idea or why we should keep it as it is. So I'm definitely up for looking at it, and I think it's a good suggestion. And that's all I can say, really, is that I think we should put it under consideration.
Mr. Donnelly.
Well, it's a good conversation. I'm not at a point now where I believe that we should separate the Light Commission from the Board of Selectmen. I think it works well with the Board of Selectmen acting as commissioner. It puts all of our utilities, as a matter of fact, under the umbrella of the Board of Selectmen. It also makes sure that since we are the appointing authority for the general manager, that we have good management across all of our departments. We supervise the general manager. He technically is the general manager for our light department. I believe it's working well as the way it is, but certainly would be open to the pros and cons of a change. But I got to say right now, I would not be there.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle.
I would like to separate them. I think, I believe the selectmen have enough on their plates, and with us going into unknown water, so to speak, where our country's at, I think the selectmen are going to get really, really busy because money's going to get tight and a lot of things are going to be happening. And the Norwood Light, technically it runs as its own business to start with. I think they should still come in and give a report to the selectmen so we all know what's going on, but I would like to see them separated.
Okay. We're just whipping right through all these. Clearly, there's so much going on. I mean, it's true in all the towns, and I think it does help point to how much work it actually is to serve on the select board in any town. And you have a lot of things going on here. So the next question is, what specific Board of Selectmen subcommittees or efforts are you interested in working on or have you been working on? Mr. Kenichi.
Well, I've been a town meeting member and a proud town meeting member for some time. I've been a community advocate, writing letters for the Norwood Record for at least the past year on all kinds of subjects that are pertinent to the town. And I'm looking forward to being a selectman. And as far as what boards I would like to serve on, I haven't yet weighed how much work I'm going to have on a daily basis on the Board of Selectmen. So at this time, I'm going to have to take a look at that and see how my schedule is going to be affected.
Thank you. Ms. Grow.
So I've really been enjoying the work I'm doing on the Norwood Anti-Scam Task Force, and I'd like to continue that work. And I've also really enjoyed Impact Norwood. The board is present so that we have a good connection with youth, but I actually really enjoy it a lot. It's great getting to directly engage with the youth in town. I've recently been brought on with the CPC, taking that over from Selectman Lane, and then I've also been very fascinated by helping out with search committees when that need arises. I was involved with finding the new fire chief. Sometimes it's nice to have an extra perspective. I was able to have them tune the language of that recruitment so that it was clearly communicating the amount of work and responsibility and action that would be necessary for a firefighter as compared to what residents experience, which is that feeling of close community and calm. And it's like, no. If you're going to be a firefighter in Norwood, you need to understand what you're getting into. So I really enjoy talent search committees like that. And honestly, I like it all.
Okay. Ms. Doyle?
On the subcommittees, I've been on the 1.5, I've been on the open space and that, and I do know that the selectmen have a lot of committees that need to be represented by the selectmen. So whatever board or subcommittee that would need to be filled, I'd be more than happy to step up to the plate and help out and be a team player.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
Thank you. Well, I do serve on the Capital Outlay Committee and the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee and the Middle School Building Committee, and honestly, I can't tell you which one I like serving on more. All give me exposure to working with citizens who are engaged in running this town and planning its future. The Middle School Building Committee is the largest construction project in the town's history. The Capital Outlay Committee does a lot of work planning for our infrastructure improvement and improvements over time to our capital assets, buildings, ambulances, equipment, things such as that. And the Comprehensive Plan Committee is a great committee as well because this is a real visioning exercise, and I think I've just got 3 committees that are just wonderful to serve on, and I look forward to continuing my serving on those committees going forward.
Okay. Norwood Airport, would you be in favor of further development or growth at Norwood Airport? Ms. Doyle?
To be honest, I don't think it should grow more. There's a lot of wetlands out there. That's an ACEC area. It's an area of critical concern. What are you going to do? You're going to go out into the wetlands and build more runways, which then in turn you build more runways, longer runways. Then that means there are more planes with their flight patterns going over the houses, and the residents are strongly against all these planes going overhead. I have helicopters that are all the time over my house, and I'm not even by the airport. And then they have the problems with the deer, the beaver, and everything else. So if you take away the wildland habitat to grow the airport, where are these animals going to go?
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
Well, the airport is kind of maxed out for land at this point in time. There's really no area that I can think of where they could expand their runways to accommodate a larger aircraft or expansion in that regard. You know, the airport is an operation where we staff 2 employees from the town, about a $350,000 enterprise that brings in usually on average more than $400,000 worth of revenue. So it's really working well the way it is. It's providing good economic benefit to the town, as demonstrated by various reports from the Department of Transportation. So I don't believe that there is a need to expand the airport. If there are opportunities to improve business opportunities, business development within the existing confines of the airport, that's something we can take a look at. But that is the responsibility of the Airport Commission, not the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Mr. Kenichi? Well,
I'd be in favor of taking a look at how the airport could be expanded on the same footprint that it has today. Maybe some commuter flights into Boston or into New York or into Hartford or Worcester. Maybe some of those things would be of interest to somebody. I wouldn't be in favor of expanding the footprint of it, though, and going off into the wetlands or encroaching on the neighborhoods or anything like that, but I think that if there are business opportunities that we could use to increase revenue for the town by utilizing the airport, I think we should do that.
Ms. Groh?
The only kind of growth I would be interested in seeing at the airport would be growth into other types of energy. And the technology's not there yet. They don't have viable electric planes. But if they do, or if we get the sense that it's coming, we should be at the forefront of that. We run our own power company, and so we should be a provider. And that would be the type of growth that I would be interested in, is get cleaner planes coming through there. But I'm not interested in expanding, because it's sort of in a weird location, because it's sort of grandfathered in from an old military operation in the middle of a wetlands. So I can't see us wanting to damage the wetlands in favor of revenue, so I wouldn't want to do that.
All right, so this is our last question before closing. Everyone's favorite vote. Overrides. Do you think we are nearing the point where another operational override will be discussed and put to a vote? If so, would you support it? Mr. Donnelly.
Well, I think the exercise I described earlier in terms of getting to a balanced budget without the use of free cash will tell us a lot about what kind of impact services and operations the town would experience. $7 million was used this year to balance the budget. My own personal opinion would be we need to look at it, but I can't imagine that we could do a $7 million cut to a budget and not have an impact on town services, and that includes personnel. So there are some very important services that I think the town provides. If we're going to impact public safety, I think we really need to take a hard look at how we can achieve our revenue needs to support that department. We only control the general government side of business. I can't speak for the school, but certainly I would consider an override as a possibility if it's going to impact our services to a dramatic event. I think it's something we need to consider and put the vote to the citizens if necessary.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle.
I wouldn't be for an override, except for Selectman Donnelly has said, if it affects our safety with our fire and our police departments, then you have to take a hard look at it. But I think it has to be the absolute last resort. We used to never, ever had overrides in this town, ever. And then all of a sudden we had an override. And now it seems like it's going to start being more commonplace. And I think we have to figure out another way to balance our budget and not do overrides and then run the elderly out of town, because then it just means taxes are going to go up again. I think we have to be smart about things and not be spending willy-nilly. And that's what I feel like we're doing. I think we need to go back 5, 6, 7 years and see where we were in our budget, and then start looking at what's triggering everything.
Ms. Groh.
So I really want the town to go through the exercise of what will it take to get our numbers where we want them to be before I would consider an override. Now, for me, an override is going to be the case of when we're dealing with factors of, look, even if we cut every single extraneous thing, we would still have to reduce public safety, or we wouldn't have a way to deal with waste management. Those are two things you don't want to skimp on. And so at that point, then you're like, okay, we have exhausted all other ideas, we've tried to get creative, and we just can't do it. Then I might consider an override.
Thank you. Mr. Konieczny.
I'm not in favor of an override. I think we have to look at all the alternatives and keep override off the table. Now, of course, I'm not in favor of damaging the town either. So if it comes to something where we're going to cut essential services or cut safety or cut our schools or something like that so that our kids can't get a good education, well then, of course, overrides aren't that far off the table. But I think we should do everything in our power to avoid having an override.
All right. So before we go to closing statements, I just want to thank the candidates for participating tonight. I think this has been, for voters who are watching, will be very informative when it comes time to cast your votes. Also for participating and for putting yourself out there and running. That is not an easy thing to do. So thank you. Democracy is not a spectator sport. I always have to say that. So closing statements, Mr. Kenichi.
Well, together we can keep Norwood a small, family-oriented, wonderful, close-knit town. I have a world of experience. I've been in engineering, computer engineering. I've been in purchasing. I've been in marketing. I've done sales work. I've owned 2 of my own businesses. So, my last business that I ran was a handyman business in Norwood that I ran for 20 years. So I come with a world of experience. I've got a lot of common sense. I'm a transparent guy. I'll publish my phone number to the residents. If anybody has questions, they can call me at any time. I'm accountable, and I think that all the selectmen should be accountable to the town. The selectmen work for the taxpayer does not work for the selectmen, and the developers do not work for the selectmen. The selectmen are accountable to the town. So I respectfully ask for your vote, and I hope that together we can keep Norwood a small town.
Thank you. Ms. Doyle.
I would like to be selectman in this town because I believe I have a lot to offer. I've sat on many boards during the time that I've lived here, been a town meeting member for 13, 14 years. A lot of people know I don't have a problem getting up and speaking against an issue if it's not in the best interest of the town. I don't have a problem saying no. I've sat on boards that I haven't agreed with the other members on the boards. I do my homework. The fact that I manage commercial property and I have a construction supervisor's license, I know about the details of keeping numbers tight and everything else. So I would like to have your vote. I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters for tonight and for the other candidates sitting up here with me. I've enjoyed this tremendously.
Ms. Groh.
I'd like to use my closing time not for myself, but for an appeal to all viewers. What's the moment you are waiting for to step up and volunteer? It's not like the books and the movies where there's this nice clean crescendo to a key moment where you, the hero, answer the call of destiny because now is clearly the time. If that's what you're doing, then you're waiting for a train that already left the station. Don't feed into misery profiteers who make money off your anxiety and anger while you infinite scroll the horrors of the world. Reclaim your time by investing in community. Use the skills you have and put yourself forward. People ask me how I seem to know what to do with town government, but all I do is harness my deep love of people and the skills that I've got and ponder, how can I use what I know to help others? So don't wait for the special moment to volunteer with the town. That moment is now. The moment has always been now. So thank you for tuning in tonight, and thanks for being an engaged voter.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Thank you. First of all, 3 acknowledgements. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. As always, it's a great opportunity for candidates to talk about the issues and for voters to get their perspectives. I also want to thank the Norwood Community Media for hosting us this evening. And I want to thank the candidates as well. It's not an easy thing to run a campaign, to put your hat in the ring. You have to raise money. You're out in the middle of March trying to get a lawn sign stuck in a lawn that's half frozen. Not great. I would only say that, and I also want to wish my wife a happy birthday. This is like not the best venue for that I wanted to celebrate your birthday, but time will come and we'll do that. Experience in knowing how the town operates, how local government operates count. I have that experience. I know how this town operates. I know its finances. I know how to get things done. So please consider giving me one of your 2 votes on April the 7th. Thank you for listening.
Thank you all for tuning in this evening, and thank you to our candidates and our moderator for an informative and engaging conversation. As a reminder, the municipal election will take place Monday, April 7th. Polls will be open from 7 o'clock a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. at your district's polling place that day. There is still time to request an absentee ballot, and one can be requested through the town clerk's website by calling the town clerk's office at 781-762-1240, extension 6029, excuse me, or by emailing the league at lwvnorwoodma@gmail.com. Applications for an absentee ballot must be received by Monday, March 31st. You can view a sample ballot for your district by visiting the town clerk's website. Of note, while there are multiple districts with contested town meeting races, many districts will have unfilled seats. If you are interested in running for town meeting as a write-in candidate, please reach out to the town clerk or the league for more information. Remember that every election is determined by the people who show up. Your vote matters. Thank you.